In this video, I'll be checking out the ODVOX car stereo display with speaker from Focuway. This is a wireless CarPlay and Android Auto car display that features a much more beefier speaker system, should you wish to rely on its own internal speaker, as well as using FM audio, auxiliary audio, and Bluetooth audio support as well. It offers Apple AirPlay and Android video casting, along with SD card support for Media Playback too. So that's a brief summary of the ODVOX display. Let's check out what comes inside the box. Okay, so here's what you get inside the box. You get some paper instruction cards, as well as a paper instruction manual as well. You get the ODVOX display itself. You get an auxiliary cable for auxiliary audio. You get a long USB-C power cable to a 12-volt adapter with USB-A pass-through power, a prying tool to help with the installation of that power cable, and you also get a SIM card removal tool and 5 cable management clips. Okay, so looking over the actual display itself then, it's a 7-inch display, slightly squashed in its height, so you've got more width than you do actually have height in a more traditional kind of 16:9 7-inch display. So that's fine if it's on your dashboard top surface. It reduces its height slightly, so it doesn't actually interfere with your view outside the windscreen. There is some larger size bezels on either side there, so it's not really fully consistent, with a little bit of silver trim and the Focuway branding on the bottom there. It has some tilt adjustment inside the actual casing itself. There's no side to side adjustment. That's all handled with the stand that screws into the bottom of the actual display itself. There's also some rubber feet should you want to position it on a table surface, for example, and do away with the stand. But that stand has an adhesive pad, so it's going to stick onto your dashboard. There's some faux speaker looking grill things on the side there. They don't actually do anything. There's no holes in them. It's just for show. On top, you've got the ODVOX branding. It looks like a button there, but it's not a button that you can actually interact with. Over on the back here, we've got dual loudspeakers on the back, which is why you've got a much bigger casing than more traditional car displays. And on the lower end, you've got a power button to turn the power of the display on and off. And then here are some I/O ports. You've got auxiliary for the audio, SD card slot for media playback. You've got an AV socket there should you buy their rear view camera. We don't have one in our review, but it's going to be the same kind of rear view camera that you can get. And then finally, you've got the USB Type-C port for powering the display. It's a little bit weighty because you've got those drivers in there, so it's a little bit heavier than most displays, but it probably matches the kind of similar weight to a more bigger display. It kind of evens out overall. You can rotate this and actually take that stand off, so it's going to allow you to mount this plate in it. There is some flexibility there if you've got a curved dashboard, and then this basically then screws back onto the display itself. And because you've got that, you've got some rotation, so you can actually angle that display a little bit further to you, and you've got that slight pivot on the display as well to reduce glare, for example, and angle it down further as well. So that's quite a nice addition. Now, as I said earlier, it's a 7-inch display, has a resolution of 1280 by 480, so it's going to run similar pixel resolution as a aftermarket stereo or an older one. Now that we're getting a little bit more HD now, but you are probably going to get a full bank of 10 CarPlay icons on this display, which is nice because it's less sliding and scrolling, and you're going to have a much more denser screen pixel density. So that means that it's not going to be overly chunky once we get this running Apple CarPlay. Now, before we jump in the car, let's get this powered up, see how quickly it boots up, and let's have a look at the main menu interface. Okay, so I've got the adapter here. I'm going to plug this into my power socket. That's down below here. And around about under 3 seconds, and we're into the main menu interface. That's really nice and quick. And you can see that I've already connected Apple CarPlay, and we're already booted into CarPlay. So you can see roughly how quickly it does get into Apple CarPlay, and that's really nice and quick too. But we're going to come out of here first, and we're going to show you the main menu interface. Now, it's a very nice display. It's probably one of the better looking interfaces that I've seen on a car stereo display for CarPlay and Android Auto. We've got a side navigation dock here for home. That's going to take us backwards and forwards between the two running platforms. And then we've got brightness, so you can change the screen brightness at night time. It doesn't look like there's an auto mode though. Sound, you can actually adjust the sound. We're going to whack it to halfway. And then here we've got settings, which we'll come back to in a minute. Now the home screen, you've got clock, time and date, quick actions to CarPlay and Android Auto. If you're connecting over Bluetooth directly to the phone, you can actually manipulate the playback of audio here. Here's your audio options. So you can actually toggle between the stereo speakers on the display itself, Bluetooth audio from your phone, wireless FM audio to your car radio, and if your car has it, you've got auxiliary input as well. We're going to keep it on the speaker at the moment. You've got quick options here for AirPlay and Android casting, and also here is almost like a generic access, which is going to take you to the connecting options of the display if I wasn't already connected to CarPlay. Up here, you can't really tap here. It says invalid at the top here. And then swiping the screen, you can't go left, but going right, you've got SD card storage, rear view camera if you've got that plugged in, and obviously the setup screen as well. There's no further options. So let's jump into settings. You've got quick access to support, should you want to reach out to them for any advice. You've got a nice graphic equaliser there, some presets, and also you can actually interfere with it manually. Then you've got display settings, which is quite nice. And then you've got basic setup options of factory resetting, changing the reverse camera mirroring, reverse guidelines. You can customize those guidelines. I'm not quite sure what suspension key switch is. And obviously you can change the time if it doesn't get it from your connected device, whether it's iPhone or Android, it will populate that date as well. Furthermore options here, you've got factory settings, and also you can change the language between a fairly few languages there. We're going to stick it with English. And that's pretty much all the settings that you have for this display. Now, as we're connected to CarPlay, just quickly show you that. We can test out the speaker as well. Check out some audio.
Well, here we are back on the hot, muggy street of New York.
So you can see that most of the audio is coming from that grill there. So I'll be a little bit dubious as to actually is there two actual woofers in there, two speakers with just one big heavy duty speaker. But the overall amplification of that speaker is way beyond any of the other CarPlay stereo speakers. Obviously they're a lot thinner, so they're not going to have that depth of bass, and that's going to be this display's main unique selling point, is its audio from the actual display itself. We'll go in the car later and we'll test out the other three options, but for now this is going to be the better option if you're only going to rely on the speaker performance of the display itself. Now into CarPlay, you can see there we've got the full array of 10 icons. Really nice. It does squash them down tightly because of the display height, but it doesn't squash the icons. CarPlay is behaving as you'd expect. It is adapting to that screen real estate. Now I didn't see any option to change the side dock in the settings, which is unfortunate. So if you are on a right-hand drive car and you wanted to switch that dock to the right, I couldn't really see that option to do that. There is a floating button that we all love to hate. Very small actually because of the screen density, but that allows you to change the volume, go home, and turn the display on and off. And as for its responsiveness over wireless CarPlay, it's not bad. A couple of mishits there. So the Wi-Fi bandwidth is not going to be as good as more dedicated wireless adapters are, but you're not going to be worrying about that because you won't even have that option. This is your only option. If you haven't got CarPlay in your car, you'll be buying a display like this really. Not quite sure where the microphone is. Let's test that out. Probably going to be in the back, I reckon. Hi, this is Anthony from CarPlayLife.com. This is an audio test using the Focuway ODVOX CarPlay display. And this is an audio test using the microphone, touching around the display to see if it's anywhere around here. But I reckon it's on one of these sides of the grills at the back rather than at the front. So to me that feels like the microphone is actually in behind the screen. It wasn't very immediate where that microphone actually is. But that's good. The quality was actually quite nice. It was quite nice and bassy. Again, helped by the bass of the actual display. But overall, I think the quality of the microphone is actually quite good. But we'll test that again in the car from the distance and also test the call delay as well. Okay, so that's a quick brief overview of the ODVOX from Focuway. Let's jump in the car now and see how well this display performs in the car. So I'll see you over there. Right, so we're in the Golf and it's a little bit of a somber mood. Not only the weather is awful, but this might probably be my last video recording in the Golf, and more on that in a future video. But now we're looking at the Focuway ODVOX car display. We're going to fire up the car. We know how quickly it fires up anyway. So we're going to see how quickly it shows up and it takes us to the main menu interface. Now, although it's connecting to CarPlay right now, and you can already see that the date doesn't actually stay saved, which is a little bit of a disappointment. It should at least update the time, so you've got to do that manually. Then hopefully that then gets saved. So we're going to try that anyway, just to make sure that is the actual case. Right, we've connected to CarPlay and we've come back and the actual date has been corrected to the right date. But unfortunately it doesn't seem to save it. But we can go into here and that is correct now. But I don't know, when we seem to come out and come back again, it doesn't seem to keep it in check, unfortunately. So we've gone over the main menu. That's all good, looks great. I have done a few different additions. I've put an SD card in there too, so we can check out that in a minute. First, let's play the CarPlay using the internal speaker in the car. So that's wireless CarPlay, all interacted with. You can hear the audio. Sounds good for a display. It's not high quality, but it's good enough. It's better than any of the other car displays that are out there, purely because of its volume. It's the speaker that's in it. It is better. And it sounds good in the car if you are limited on the audio options. The next best thing would be either auxiliary or FM transmission. Auxiliary is going to be a wired version. FM transmission is going to be wireless. Let's do wireless first with FM. So to do that, we need to go into the audio output. We then need to go to FM. We're going to switch. And now we're on to currently 87.50. You can see a little bit of my stereo here. And I'm going to go to the radio station, go to a free frequency. So we've got 88.0. So we're going to go to 88.0. Let's see if we can do that. Yep, you can do that, which is nice to see. 88.0. And now we're totally locked in, dead silent. That's all you need to do in the car stereo now. And now we're going to basically start going back to CarPlay, enter the CarPlay mode, and we're going to start. And that sounds solid. There's no sort of bass distortion as we've seen on other displays. There's a slight hiss there, a little bit of a whine interference, and it's also going to vary depending on the type of car system you've got and the interference from that. You can hear it. Bit of an audible hum, not the best. Yeah, that's the cable. If you stretch out the cable, if you hold the cable, it's fine. If I let go, there is some interference there. So it's not the best, but it's going to give you much more better, fuller volume than the internal speaker is going to be. Your own use of it will vary depending on your car system, but FM is the next best option and it's wire free. Now the next one is going to be auxiliary. So you're going to need their auxiliary cable to plug into the back, and that's obviously going to introduce a whole other wire. So it's going to be a little bit unsightly. It's going to be better than FM anyway. So we're going to turn this around. I haven't actually used the adhesive yet. And we're going to plug in the auxiliary, and then we're going to go into, on the car stereo, we're going to go into media, change the source to auxiliary. Now we're in auxiliary, we can just leave that as is, and then in here we change to auxiliary, and that pop means that we're now connected. Jump into CarPlay again. That's much better than FM. Good quality, clear, crisp over auxiliary, but you do have to think about that you've introduced the second wire, and the auxiliary cable isn't the same length as the power cable, so you will have to run that separately to get that stereo to reach your car system, depending on wherever that auxiliary port is. It would have been nice if it was the same length, but if you've got an auxiliary port that's very close, you could either buy a shorter length cable and it'd be a bit more neater install. So that's auxiliary and FM and internal. The last one is Bluetooth. So for that, Bluetooth will come from the phone. So we need to come out of this and go into audio output again, into Bluetooth. We confirm that. So now this is into Bluetooth mode. So we now need to pair our iPhone to the car stereo. So we're going to let CarPlay display up there, and then here we're going to go into media, change it to Bluetooth audio. We're going to search for a new device. We're going to connect to our VW on the Bluetooth, and then we're going to pair it, and then it's come up on the car stereo. We've paired the stereo successfully. We're connected. We're connected on this device as well. You can see it here. And now we're connected to the car display for CarPlay, and we're connected from the phone to the car stereo for audio. So we're going to go back to the very first track. So a nice crisp digital sound from the Bluetooth. It's wireless, so you don't have to worry about any other wires. And the best thing of all, if you've got a Bluetooth car stereo, your wheel controls will now control the display, because you're controlling the songs on your phone over Bluetooth, and therefore it's controlling the content on the display itself. So you can go back and forward, and then you can also talk to Siri. Hey Siri. Hi, this is Anthony from CarPlayLife.com. This is an audio message using the Bluetooth method of audio on the display, and it's probably going to be using the iPhone microphone rather than my microphone in my Golf. Okay, so that's encouraging. It actually does use my Golf microphone, so that's quite rare. For displays using Bluetooth, usually it takes it from my phone, but it's not doing that, so happy days. That's really, really good. So wheel controls, microphone being supported. Let's just check out a call delay test. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, very happy with that call quality. Obviously taking it from the microphone, great call quality. Call delay is very, very good as well over wireless CarPlay. So solid pass there for calling and all audio quality over CarPlay. So that's CarPlay in a nutshell. It's fairly responsive for a display. It's probably pretty standard in terms of how it performs compared to a dedicated system and wireless CarPlay. It does the job. It looks great. Maps works really, really nicely, but then you've got to have a think about that. It's a 7-inch screen, so it's actually quite small. It might sit there enough depending on your car interior. At least it's not taking up full height, which is the most important thing for me personally. A landscape navigation display is much better than a sort of 4x3 one, and this is even less than that. It would have been nice if this didn't have any of the bezel, so it filled the whole screen. Obviously that would have costed a lot more for the maker, but it would have given a much more professional, pro looking display. Right, so that's CarPlay. Let's switch to Android Auto. Okay, so over on Android Auto, we switch to the Android Auto mode here, which can also be accessed from this little tile here as well. We're going to tap on Android Auto. It's telling us exactly what we need to do here. So we need to go into Bluetooth, turn on Bluetooth, and then wait for the Focuway Bluetooth ID. Here it is. We're going to tap that and pair. Going to allow for messages. Okay, so that took a lot longer than CarPlay, but we're in, and we're in Android Auto here, ready to go. That works on the display. Now, because we're in Bluetooth mode, audio is coming from the phone, so we're going to connect to our Android device. Oddly, not hearing the audio. A couple of permissions on my phone, and we're into Android Auto. So that's all landing on the home screen. Nice ratio, not cut off, not grainy or anything like that. It's a good solid feed for Android Auto. You've got all the buttons there, fairly responsive. Let's dive into maps. Got full screen, that's in there. Seems to work okay. No pinch and zoom on this display, unfortunately. Let's just zoom in. Fairly good there on the navigation side. As for the music side, that seems to work all right. And again, being Bluetooth, I can control from the wheel controls as well. And the delay is actually not too bad, but sound is good quality overall. That's the quality of the audio over all the audio sources on CarPlay and on Bluetooth for Android Auto. Wheel controls doesn't support the call button. Not even a single press is going to work, unfortunately. So you've got previous and next, but calling doesn't seem to function across wireless Android Auto or CarPlay. Let's do a call test. Hello? 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 That all sounds good. Solid quality. Very little lag as well. Happy with that. So Android Auto and CarPlay in a nutshell works perfectly, minus the call button for Google Assistant or Siri, but you can actually trigger that through voice, no problem. Call quality, great too. One thing we haven't looked at is the SD card storage. Not only that's not playing over the Bluetooth, because obviously you're playing from the display, you're not playing the content from your phone. So the Bluetooth won't actually necessarily work. So you've got to come out of that, go to audio output, go onto the speaker, and now we've got the music. So that's all working. And obviously on the main menu, that's not going to work, unfortunately. So that's audio in a nutshell. We can try some movies.
One must destroy in order to create. We are no Jedi.
Okay, that's not too bad. It's not filling up the screen though, unfortunately, and you can't expand that, and it could fill the screen. It's doing it by height rather than width. It would be nice to see some more options there. It's mostly in sync though with the audio, so that's not too bad if you want to play videos off this tiny little screen. But if you've got a mobile phone, the quality and the size isn't going to be any different. So that's a little bit of not much of a bigger feature in this day and age. Next, we can try out AirPlay. So for that, we need to go into the Wi-Fi settings and connect to this particular display. So we go into there, we enter 1 to 8. That will connect us to the Wi-Fi hotspot of the car system from the display. And then we go into screen mirroring, enter car. And now we're into the Wi-Fi mirroring of the phone. And it's relatively good quality, but you can see how tiny that is. So if we go into YouTube and we play some content.
So that's a brief summary of the adapter. Let's check out what comes inside the box.
Okay, so the quality, I'd say it's not brilliant. You've got that lag in the video feed. It's like at least a second or two of lag in that audio. Okay for casual watching, but I really wouldn't use this feature personally. And again, if you're going to watch video, watch it off your phone. It's way more real estate, even when it's landscape. Okay, we're going to stop mirroring and we're going to try Android casting. So for this, it uses an app by which we will need to scan the QR code with our phone. And that's going to take us to a file download, to which we've downloaded it, and now we open it. This is an app called Mirroring. So we now open this, and then we need to make sure it's actually on top of everything, and now it's running. So for here, we now need to connect to the hotspot on our Android. It's quite convoluted on how to get this up and running on an Android. It's a lot harder than CarPlay. So we're going to come out of there. We're going to go into mobile hotspot. So we call the Wi-Fi network car, and then we connect with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then it also says to use 2G. So that's now connected. And then now we need to go back to the mirroring app. And then yes, we do want to start. It took a little time, but we need that. And now we're mirrored to the phone. Again, fairly responsive. Quality is not too bad either. Let's try YouTube. Doesn't like that. It doesn't like going full screen on the video, and so unfortunately, as soon as I rotate it, it says do I want to mirror? So that's a bit detrimental there on its main use for me, because you would want to use it for YouTube, and that doesn't seem to work that well. Okay, I've tried it on Netflix as well, and it hasn't really worked with that either, so I don't really see what the main use case is there, other than certain supporting apps that I don't know of, and it may be displaying on the screen. But again, like the iPhone, you're going to get a better experience playing it off your phone anyway with a screen real estate this small. So the Focuway ODVOX CarPlay display currently retails for $129.99 from Amazon. And I'll leave links down below so you can learn more about this screen, support the channel, and buy yourself one. Overall, great screen for the car if you don't have Android Auto or CarPlay functionality in your car. All 4 audio options are there, and even the internal speaker is actually decent and better than all other displays of this kind. Now that's given from its depth, so it is a deep display, but because your dashboard is quite deep, you don't really notice it. But what you do notice is the limited screen real estate. It could have filled those bezels up and be a little bit more pro looking. A bigger display would have gone a little bit more. That 8 inches probably would have done it for me and made it even better. There's no need to show the logo on the front really. Just bring that display full screen all the way to the edge and it would have been a lot nicer aesthetically, and it would be much more easier to touch as well. I'm not a big fan of its little tiny little dial. There's one thing that you can do as well, but it will only work on the home screen, and that is you can actually pull down and bring in this interface as well, which is a nice touch, and it should really work over CarPlay and Android Auto, but unfortunately it doesn't. You've got that presets for the equaliser should you want to manipulate that with your car system if your stereo isn't really up to scratch. I would say it's a good performer. It definitely looks the part in terms of its UI and general user experience. The audio quality sounds good. I've seen car displays with terrible FM. It didn't do it with this one. I find the AirPlay, Android casting and the SD Media Playback for video probably a little bit pointless for a screen real estate this size, but you might have usage for that. The Bluetooth audio is good. It uses my Golf microphone, which some of the other displays didn't do in their Bluetooth modes, so that's a positive. And CarPlay and Android Auto work very well, but again you are using a very small screen, so it's a little bit more fiddly to interact with than a more bigger display would be. But they both performed very well. Great call quality, very little call lag, generally good performance on those both platforms. So personally I would go for a bigger screen over the internal speaker, which is this device's main USP, but it does a great experience overall if you're looking for a car display with a built-in audio, especially with its graphic equaliser settings as well that you can tweak for your liking. Alright, I hope you found this video helpful. If it has, give us a thumbs up. And let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions about the ODVOX from Focuway, and I'll do my best to answer them. You can support the channel with a super thanks, along with your comment or question, or buy me a coffee. I really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and maybe I'll see you in a different car in the very near future. Okay, cheers. Bye.